Gerald Sorensen was an American airman who was shot down over Belgium in May of 1944. The Belgian resistance found him after he had parachuted to the ground and took him to the home of Arthur Abels. Arthur Abels himself was active in the Belgian resistance, an organization called the Front d'Indépendance. And Abels' son, Roger, was also active in the Front d'Indépendance, and Roger as well was active in the secret armies. Between May and July of 1944, Sorensen spent his time in this family's home. Now, he was a downed airman. The Nazis were looking for him. He couldn't do tourist activities. So basically, I don't want to say that he was a prisoner, but it was like being a prisoner in the Abels' home. He couldn't go anywhere. So consequently, what the family did is they got to know each other very, very well. It was not only Mr. Abels, who spoke English very well, his wife, then the two children. And the children were Roger Abels, who I mentioned was in the resistance, and Jenny, who's his sister. And they became family. So Roger Abels had been summoned to do labor service in Germany. And of course, there was no way he was going to do that. So he himself became a fugitive in his own home. So Roger decided to go with the secret army in the area around Angien. Jerry Sorensen at the same time period said, "This is exactly what I'm going to do too." So he left with Roger. On the day of the liberation, September 3rd, 1944, Sorensen's unit was ordered to harass the Nazis as they were retreating from Belgium. The concept was to slow down their retreat so that they could be overtaken by British and American forces. So Roger and Jerry were sent to a little village called Mark, and at this village they bicycled out there. They traveled by bicycle. On the way to where the unit was to take up its positions, either Roger or Jerry's bicycle developed some sort of mechanical problem, we don't know which. So the rest of the unit went ahead, leaving the two boys by themselves working on the bicycle together. It was a particular intersection. There were two buildings on the two sides. You could see roads or cars coming down the intersection, but you couldn't see what was behind those cars. And as they were standing there working on the bikes, a German vehicle drove by that was full of German officers. And they did instinctively what you would expect them to do. They pulled out their gun and they opened fire. I mean, this was their chance to directly strike back. What they didn't realize is there was a column of 300 SS behind this car who immediately took chase for Roger and Jerry. They ran, bullets, chasing after them along the way. They took up a final position in a rabbit hutch, and they were killed combating the Nazis. The Nazis encircled the position. One of them got a grenade inside. So they died together, and effectively their blood, mingled together into the soil of Belgium. That part of the detail is interesting because when I first became aware of Sorensen, I found the grave in a small communal cemetery in Gonshorn, which is part of Brussels. It's an old cemetery. It's no longer used for burials. When I went in, we almost had to crawl over the fence to get into the thing, and eventually found it. And there was a cross there, and it said, "Gerald E. Sorensen, USA, died for Belgium." And those words, "died for Belgium," in French, intrigued me. I noticed Roger Abels being buried next to him. Sorensen and Roger Abels were very different individuals. Sorensen was a farm boy from Idaho. He was a Mormon. He was the all-American kid, whereas Roger Abels was a Francophone Catholic living in a city of Brussels at the time period. Yet they bonded with each other because they shared certain values in common, and they recognized that in each other. And they hated the Nazis and everything the Nazis stood for. And that is what led them to connect with each other. And it struck me as a very deep symbol of what is going on between Belgium and the United States.